Hello and welcome. Thanks for joining me. Last time we left off, this is the page that we were looking at. We coded up this footer section here, and we made this page responsive. So it collapsed after our breakpoint of 768 pixels. We added in the JavaScript to make this menu pop out and close when clicked. So what we're going to be doing today is we are going to be first off messing with this JavaScript here, because when we're in this state, what is going on is we have that active class on that navigation. When we slide back open to have the navigation showing, that still has that state of active. So when we go back to this size, that still is open until we collapse it again. So I just want to take care of that. So we can do that with a resize, and then sorry, I will turn off this here. So we can listen for that window.resize event, and then just toggle that state so that it's consistent, so that when we resize, it's closed again. So big news here on my laptop, we are now using VS Code rather than Atom, so you'll notice that a couple of things are different. Really the biggest difference, aside from the color scheme here, is going to be this kind of overview of the whole file over here. I'm not really using this so much yet, but it's nice just to kind of see where I'm at in the document. So that is interesting. So we're going to go ahead. First thing we're going to do, right now we have all of this JavaScript in line. So I'm going to pop that out to a different file. So we'll create it, and we're going to fix that formatting there, and we'll save it just as index.js. And then we'll go back to index, and we will, like that in the first, we can remove this here. My scrolling just really went crazy right there. We can remove that script tag, and we will call it up here. Where's my cursor? There we go. And the source is going to just be index.js. There we go. We don't need anything in between those tags. And we'll head over here. We'll do a reload, and we'll see that we're still working there. Cool. So we're all good there. And now the other thing we need to do is say add the event listener to the window, resize. We actually don't need to take that event and do anything with it. We're not going to prevent the default action there. So then we're just going to, if the nav class list contains is active, we will do the same things. We can actually just go ahead and do this, the old copy paste stuff. And we actually don't need that else class there. All we need to do is remove that is active class and then make that icon from the cross back to the hamburger. So there's that, and we resize, and we resize back, and that is still open. Not sure why that's still happening, because the toggle char is defined right there. So we'll break that out, give that a wider scope, and now that should work. Resize, bam, resize, and there we are, we're good. So we see that it happens no matter what the resize is. So we want to make sure that we are only doing this if the window inner width is greater than 768 pixels. Go like that. Okay, like that. See, that's not happening. And now when we go back to normal. So that's exactly the behavior that we want. It was really easy to add in. I'm just going to clean this up a little bit. Go like that and concatenate that down into a single statement. Just make it a little bit easier to read. And the other thing we can do is we can break this inner these instructions into its own function so that we're not repeating code. So we're going to go ahead right here and say function. Here comes my cat. Say hi to the camera, Dan. He's going to try to drink my tea. Nav toggle, and we will take a we will take a direction. Actually, we don't need to take a direction. We can just test it all right in here. Go like this. Go like that. And then we just call those things. And then we would need to refine this. Actually, we might not actually have to refine that. If we're trying to, let's see, how can we do that? So the way it stands right now, if we just call nav toggle, actually we do have this is active here, so maybe that'll do it. So I'm worried that if we just call it, it will open the nav on resize. But I actually, with that in there, yeah, cool, that's good. All right, that's behaving as expected, so we're good there. So yeah, that just saved us repeating those 3 lines of code twice. Made everything easier to be in there. It made everything a little easier to read too. Cool. So that was the first big thing I wanted to get out of the way today. The other thing that we are going to be looking at today will be 3 major things. So the first big thing I wanted to do was get that nav to behave well and bust out the JavaScript into its own file, much like we did with the CSS. The other thing is in a similar fashion, bust out the header and the footer, otherwise known as page parts, into their own independent files from which we call from the main pages that we're going to be building. So as I think I mentioned last week, the person on Dribble or the design firm on Dribble who created the initial design made 2 additional complementary pages. That's going to be an about page and another page. I think this might be the about page. Let me see. No, that's the about page. So this is the about page. And then there's like a corporate page about their staff, I guess. So that's cool. So we're going to be building all of this. I'm going to just start with the general layout. No, we're not going to do functionality today. And then so I'm going to start with the layout and collapsing that, which for this page should be really simple. And then for this page it's going to be a little bit more complex. You see we've got some overflowing elements here. This is going to be an interactive slider, this whole hero section here. And then we've got some logos down here that we're going to have to find. And then what seems to be a pretty complex grid going on here. So we see we've got at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 5 grid rows with at least 1, 2, 3, 4 columns, it looks like. And then we've got these cool little cards here. And what's cool about these is that these are actually clipped on a background. So I'm not sure if that's accomplished in this regard with PNGs with transparent backgrounds or with CSS clip path or something like that. So that's going to be interesting. I think the easiest way to start with that is just going to be PNGs with transparent backgrounds. Clip path is something that is not super easy to do, but there are automation tools to make it easier. With complex shapes like this, it's definitely a lot more difficult than, say, just doing a square or a circle, but we'll get into that when we get into that. So it looks like we've got a couple of like stock video components here as well. One thing that I came across the first time I was talking about this 2 weeks ago was all of the stock photography in here was incredibly easy to find, and I was super lucky to find that footer image on this page here. I was super lucky to find that right away. I was really excited about that, so hopefully we get some more of that going on today. So, as always, if you have any questions or comments, say something in the chat, and I'll try to pay attention to it and respond in kind. So the first thing I want to do is I want to create 2 new files. We're going to create header.php, and then we are also going to create footer.php. And we are going to change the index.html to be a this is going to be a PHP file. Cool. So we've got all that changed up. So in the header, we are going to put our doc type declaration, all of the stuff that goes into the head, and we're going to put the opening body tag, our header, and the opening main tag. Go ahead and save that. And then in here, in the index.php, we can say include header.php. and that's great. And we go over here, and we get a 404 on there because we used the wrong file extension. And there we go. Everything still works beautifully. Let's see, go like that. And this include function is running header.php. It's essentially adding header.php to index.php, whenever index.php is called. So then we're going to do the same thing with the footer. Closing HTML tag, closing body tag, everything in the footer, as well as the closing main tag. And then in place of that here, we're going to say PHP include footer.php. And we'll pop back over here. And there it is. So the next thing we can do is just clean up our markup just a little bit. Don't need all those tabs here. So we just greatly reduced the file size here, and we broke out those page parts. And much like moving the CSS to an external file and moving the JavaScript to an external file, that is just preventing us from repeating our markup on every single page that we load. So rather than copying and pasting the nav and everything, what we're doing is we are just automatically including it. So we just have to type it once. That makes this a lot easier. I would put them as a function with here.doc into an includes.php. Yeah, that is definitely something that could be done, and it is probably better, but I'm trying to start a little more simple here. Yes. So the place where I want to start is we have to turn all of these items up here into actual links. So let's bump into here. Cool. So that's all good. And now if we refresh, we can actually click on these and see that everything is going to throw 404 because I don't have those pages created yet. So like I said, it's just going to be the about page and the I'm not sure what page this is. I think this might be the landing page. I'm not sure. So we're just going to call that the portfolio page for now, I guess. And then we'll hop into coding that. So this index that we're on is actually the about page, or the programs page, I'm sorry. Or the blog page. Did they change their... Yeah, they have different navigation on each of these. That is a little bit confusing. So we will make that consistent. We'll just throw that there. And then say blog.php. So this index.php we will rename to be blog.php. And we'll have to go back there. Cool. And then we'll remove that isActive class altogether. A couple of ways to set the, if you want to set the isActive class here. A couple of ways to do that. You can do it with PHP, you could do it with JavaScript. I like to do it with PHP. quick and dirty way is just to say page equals blog. And all of the, actually we need to do that before the header call. So if you define a variable here and then do an include, the variable will get passed to the include file. So we can go up here and just say, do a check if page equals, better not make any typos. Classes is active. Cool. Close that off, and then say this one has to be portfolio, programs, blog, and contact. Cool. So there we go. Looking great. That's real quick and dirty. Definitely better ways to do this. Using JavaScript to do it is definitely an option, and I tend to do that more often. But right in the PHP, that just gives us everything right up top there. So that is all good. So I think I want to start by working on the About page. It seems like this is going to be the most straightforward to start with and give me less grief than anything else. So we need to start with some markup on the hero. See, we've got a huge header here with a stock video there. I have no stock video source, as I have always just used stock imagery. None of my clients or any projects I've ever been a part of have required stock video. You might want to define the page as a constant, not as a variable. I could. I don't need to. The include is, it's passed on, so it's, as far as I'm concerned, it's 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other. So this is about, and we're just going to start with that markup. So we have this big header, and we're going to go one step further and say this is a hero. Oops. We invest in the innovative people. People that push us beyond what's readily obvious. I know this is a study in design and not in content, but some of the language here is it seems like it's written by a broken AI or something. I don't understand what this means. How Sequoia will and never be the leader in text investment. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that means. So let's go find a stock video source. Good old Google, hopefully coming to the rescue. Oh, Pexels. I did not know Pexels did video. I have used them for stock imagery in the past, and that's really good to know. So this looks pretty good. What does this look like? Mountain view with snow. Oh, it wants me to download it. All right. That is indeed some stock video. There's no sound. So, all right. Let's see. Maybe we'll be able to find this one. Maybe not. This one will suffice. So we're going to go, yeah. Wow. I don't want that huge thing. Just a huge file there. So we're going to go to Local Ventures, video.mp4, and we're just going to use that same video throughout because there's a couple of places where there's videos. So we need to use the video player HTML thingy going on, which I don't know a whole lot about. Oh, so one other thing that I'm a little bit nitpicky about is the height of the main. We're going to go here and make sure compass is working. Local Ventures, there we go. Alrighty, so let's get down here. We have our header, our container. We're just going to go like this. And we're going to set a min height on the main container, just because I'm picky about this going on here. Cool. That looks a lot better. So we have given this some special things there. So we're just going to pop that out of a container. Cool. All right. So I don't know anything about this HTML5 video tag. So I just want to make sure I am up to date on my things here. Oh, you know what I think is really cool actually is if you just do that. I think, okay, I don't know how to get it going. There's an extension that'll pop up the MDN docs for certain things that you type right away. Cool. So we just need to say, we just need to establish a tag, the controls. I'm not going to explicitly set a width here. Source video.mp4. Cool. We go into type video /mp4. And that is a self-closing tag, it appears. And cool, let's see what that looks like. There's the video. It's absolutely gigantic because our source video is absolutely gigantic. So that's okay. We'll be able to control that with CSS. There was a gentleman that I was subscribed to on YouTube for a long time. His name was Biffa. Biffa Plays Indie Games, I think was his channel name. And he did reviews and like he did cities skylines playthroughs and demos and stuff. And one thing he did is every time something happened, like he had a set of criteria, he would take a sip of tea. Perhaps I should do something similar. So we see that the header here is lined up with the thing there. And then this is going to be completely wide, but we're looking at the wrong image here. But that persists. So we want to give the hero container here the same padding. So let's go figure out what that is. Look at that, unused CSS. The nav is just display. So there we go. We got 3M on the top, the right, the bottom, 1M on the left, and then 3M on the left. So we can do something similar. Cool. That should line that up pretty nice. Look at that. Alrighty. Looks like that's about maybe a little bit more than 50% wide, and it's a lighter font face. So we got the title and the video. Alright. Font weight. Let's see, what do I have for font weights? I should have selected multiples. I got 400 and 700, so let's give that a font weight of 400. And we'll give it a width somewhere around 60%. The video max width is going to be 100% of the container. And that is looking pretty good. That video is a lot smaller here, and that's just because of the size of the original video. I'm sure that looks really, really cropped. So we need to give this a larger font size and a darker color. So we'll go like 3M, maybe a little bigger than 3M. Let's say 5M. Let's get wild with it. And that color needs to be darker. And I'm just going to go straight black with it. No, that's huge. 5M is just too large. 3M looks pretty good. Is that a different font? The kerning looks a little off. Something about that W is not doing it for me. Looks like I'm just a little bit wide there, maybe. Just gonna pull it down to 55%, see what that does for me. Yeah. Okay, let's give it a little bit more line height. Say 1.75 relative M's. And that's not doing it. That's really not going to do it. Look at all that. That's a little too much. That's way too much. I don't know how that happened. All right. That's looking a lot better. Cool. I'm pretty happy with that, and that's going to break down real nicely. We'll throw media query in there. At the mobile breakpoint, which will give it a width of 100%. to make that break down nicely and fill in all of the available space. Yeah, because all those line breaks make it really difficult to read. Cool. And I'm going to see if I can find a video that has an aspect ratio that is not so tall, because that's just, it's a little absurd. Is there any information on here at all? Let's see, info. Oh, look at that, 3840 by 2160. Yeah, that looks pretty 16:9. Let's see what we got here. We're looking at a much different screenshot. We're looking at like, let's see. Oops. I think 16:9 might be not the right one. Let me see. Okay. What's this one? Probably also 16:9. Let's take a look. Yeah. Where's get that? There we go. All right, let's go get that open. All right. Looking at 1990 by 908. 1990 by 908. So 16 divided by 9 has a 1.7 ratio. 1990 divided by 908 has a 2.1 ratio. Wow, that's huge. You're talking about like 21 to 10? Yeah, that's huge. All right. That's a ridiculous ratio. I think that video must have been cropped. This one's got sound. All right, be sure to mute that tab. Let's see. All right, maybe 16:9 is going to be the best we can find. It's all right. Like I said, this design is not going to be pixel perfect. So now we're going down to this container. Looks to have a little bit of a gritty thing going on. 2 columns, 2 rows. This is overflowing its container significantly. So a couple of ways we can handle that. Yeah, I think the first thing we can do, we can just do both of these as flex containers, two rows of flex containers, with the same initial items being the same width, and then that would allow this to overflow pretty easily. So let's get that marked up. So that's the initial hero. This is going to be a container. It'll allow us to have the same padding, same background color. Won't be a whole lot of work. Call this columns. And then we'll give a column class here. And we'll give it a pioneers and innovators. That should probably be in a big tag. Alrighty, this is column 2. Great companies are built often by pioneers. Local Ventures provides the right amount of financial capital. And a heaping quantity of human capital. Ooh, a heaping quantity. To help bring your vision to life. Hello, Cats, Cameras, Chaos. How you doing? We've got another columns here. It's got a button in it. We're going to give that some style later. And we need to now find a big image that will overflow the container. That seems to be almost square image, a little wider than it is tall. Alrighty, people. Maybe this image would be under technology? I don't know. Let's take a look at that source image. Okay. Man with laptop is what we're going to search. Nothing yet. Alright, let's narrow it down. Oh, cityscape is what I meant to. Hey, look at that. Does it look familiar to anybody else? Alright, we're going to save this image. Local Ventures. Man.jpg. Okay. Throw that in here. Man.jpg alt equals man with laptop overlooking a cityscape. Cool. Alright, let's go take a look at how terrible that looks without any styling. Yeah, wow, that's giant. That takes up everything. So we need to go in here. Let's see, did I define columns anywhere? Looks like I did. Alrighty. But I did not define it as an independent part. Oops. Alright. Display flex, flex direction, row, align items, flex start. We don't even need to do all of that. We can just straight up say flex into a row. So the thing that we're going to do here is we're going to add in some rules here. So we want to create a column system, and we want to say, you know, it's going to be 10 columns wide or 12 columns wide, or you know, 5 columns wide, whatever. So we can go about that a couple of ways. First thing we can do is we could say is one, if that column has a class of is one, we'll make it real simple and say that we're going to work on a 10% column, or a 10 column grid. Say is 2, we have a width of 20%, so on and so forth until you get to is 10, where we would have a width of 100%. And that's fine. We could do that, sit here and take 45 minutes to type that all out, or we could use a for loop. So for loops in Sass are really good, and they make it really easy. So I'm just going to pull up the documentation on that right now. So you can see it's just like a loop in any other language. For I from 1 through 3, it's the syntax is like a little different, but it's the same concept. So you use that I as the selector. So we're going to say at for I from 1 through 10. So it initiates the loop, and we'll say and dot is, and let me make sure I get that syntax, pound open bracket I width is going to be I times 10%. So I think we can just go, there you go. Let's see what that outputs. I'm not getting an error there. How's this too? Look at that. Perfect. So that's what that outputs. Beautiful. Excellent. So now we can go ahead and add that to our markup. So we're going to see here, this looks to be about 3/5, and this looks to be about 2/5. So we'll say column, and that's consistent is 4, and then column is 6. And we'll go back here, and we'll go like that. And all of our markup is still hidden behind that image because that image is in there. So let's go give that image an ID. Man. Max width of 100% of its parent container, so that we're not overflowing anything, and we are overflowing everything again. So there we go. So let's go take a look at why our markup is like that. Container should have a color of white, off-white. Cool. There we go. And then we want our columns to just have a display, a block display with 100%. That should, oh, and it doesn't. So let's see here. Okay. So how can we get that? Container displaying flex. It's displaying grid. That's why. Okay. Alright. So we need to go break that out a little bit. Cool. So this is part of the problem with making CSS like this is it is getting us into trouble later on. So let's find that page, that blog page. So we're going to find that container grid and just make sure that we're not breaking anything over there too. Which we are not, but see now these items have the wrong color on them. There we go. Cool. Back over here. And we've got that looking roughly correct. All right. So we want to add some padding onto our about page container. Just give a quick class for that. And we'll kind of do it the same way we did this grid. There we go. That's looking very nice there. So let's go look at our columns. Need a little bit more space there. Not a whole lot, just a little. That background color is incorrect. So let's just go ahead and hit this. Get that background color out of there. Get temp open, and we'll get that open. Give a copy. Ah, nice. I love it when Gimp does that. Cool. There's that. There we go. Alright. That background color is very dark. Get back into our screen.scss. Do I already have that? 252229. I do not. So we'll go ahead and call that very dark because indeed it's very dark. All right. Just gonna give that an ID. Make it a little easier to work with. Rather than just a margin bottom, we'll just give it an overall margin of 1M and auto. And we can get out of there. Cool. A little more margin needed there. Let's say 2M. Oops, not first child, first of type. margin top of 0. Very dark background. There we go. That's looking much better. Looks like that font weight is lighter. And that is an H1. And let's break that out. That will be reused. Say 2M on that font size. That font weight should be 400. And let's see how that looks. All right. Let's give it another bump up on the font size there. Not quite happy with that. That's looking better, a lot better. We need to remove the margin off of that because that's making these two things not line up. We're going to have to remove the margin on the P tag as well. That P should have lighter text and should only have a width of about 50% there. So the other thing we can do is, rather than giving it a width of 50, well, we could say is 3 on that, and then that'll clip that off. Look at that. Cool. We're going to say P class equals section subtitle. Section subtitle. We'll give it a little bit bigger of a font size. Font weight is similarly going to be 400. The margin similarly 400. But we want a little bit more of a line height. Say 1.5M. That should break it up a little bit more, make it a little easier to read. I'm liking the way that looks. So that looks a little bit narrow there. So I'm going to make that is 4 rather than is 3. Just looking a little bit narrow. We're going to add another line break in there. Cool. I like the way that looks. Still not pixel perfect, but I'm pretty okay with that. I think that is close enough. So now we have to get our button class defined for that button down there. Button background is going to be green. Color is going to be off-white. Padding, we're going to be looking at just about even all the way around. We'll start with 1M and go from there. I think that looks pretty darn good. Pretty darn good. So we need to add a hover state to it. I mean, we don't have to, but it's nice to show some response when something happens. So background, we're going to darken green by 30%, and the color, we're going to darken off white by 30% as well. That might look really ugly. Let's just give it a look and see what happens. Look at that. That does look really ugly. Okay. Oops. Darken the background, lighten the foreground. 30% might be a little bit too much. Just do 10% on both of these. That's really 10%? Wow. Yeah, that looks better. And then we'll add a transition on that. All 0.3 seconds ease. That's cute. I like how that looks. Cool. Did not take that much CSS either. All right. So let us check out why these two things aren't lining up, and then we'll be able to. All right. Cool. So that's not going to be lining up because of the padding on that button. So we need to make sure, I think it's going to be if we display it as a block level element. Yeah. Or inline block. Right? There. Yeah, that's what we're looking for. Cool. That'll do it. That'll make it behave the right way while maintaining the correct width and everything. Neat. Neat, neat, neat. Like the way that looks. So let's add those same. I have another button down here. So we want to combine these styles. So that's just the, we'll leave that there because that's in the form. There's going to be other places where we use a button that's actually an anchor tag. So we'll leave sleeping dogs lie for now. One thing you notice me doing a lot here is just kind of willy-nilly throwing in CSS rules all over the place. That is not the best practice. The reason I am doing that is because in a future video I want to talk about refactoring CSS. So right now we're not really creating a system. We are defining rules for our design, which is okay on a page-by-page basis, but when you're creating like a whole site, you want it to act more like an ecosystem. So we're going to delve into looking at CSS that it might be perfectly good CSS, but it's not structured well. So I want to have a stream where I talk about how to refactor that and decisions that go into refactoring that. I've been sitting here talking for an hour and 7 minutes now, and I'm really happy to do that, but boy does it make me thirsty. So I'm going to take 5 minutes to stretch a little bit and drink some water. I will be right back. Thank you for hanging out. Dan's been sitting right here next to my laptop the whole time, being a good cat. Dan, you want to come here? Come here. He's very grumpy looking right now. Extremely grumpy looking. Why are you so grumpy, buddy? Yeah. So I wonder if I can turn my laptop a bit to show him. Oh, there he is. All right. I will be back in approximately 5 minutes. Yeah, hello. Thank you for hanging out as I did that. So, we're working on this section right here, and what I need to do is get this here to overflow its container. One way that we might be able to do that is to give this container a negative margin bottom. So that's going to be this guy right here. Margin bottom, let's say negative, let's just say 150 pixels for starter. And you see what that did is, it's kind of hard to see here, so let's just give that a different background. It is now indeed overflowing its container, but this footer is now being obfuscated, if only partially, by this image that is overflowing. So a couple of things we could do there. We could add in another element with a height defined, which would create the padding needed. We could give the footer a margin top, but I think something that's going to be just a little bit funner is going to be using a pseudo element and giving that a margin bottom equivalent to that 200 pixels and a background color of that white. Oops, more F there. So if the pseudo element does not have the content set and the display set, it's not going to display. So 100% width, and we'll give it a nominal height. So we could also, I think we might also just be able to do that, give it a height equivalent to the margin bottom over here. And let's take a look at the results of that. Didn't work at all. Nope, not at all. And why did it not work? Uh-huh. Alright, we've got a display block, we've got a width, we've got a height, we've got a background color. And that's because it's displaying up here. So let's change that to after. Again, it's doing the same thing. There we go. So it's kind of more of what we want, but still not exactly what we want. So that is that container, and that is after. So we want that width to actually be 100 VW. We want that position to be relative. We're going to need a left property of -3m because of that padding. And then, so what that's going to do actually is that's going to not work so great. So we want to double that height, I believe. Or we want to say, let's just say 300, and then on here we'll give it a margin bottom of -400, and that will not give us the, alright. So that's not working at all. A couple of things that we'll need to change with that are going to be, we're going to have to calc 100 VW minus 6M to account for that padding, make sure there's no overflow. That height of 200 pixels should be okay. We could give it a position relative left of negative 3M, top of negative 200 pixels. That's going to make it be on top of our image. Yeah, that does put it on top of our image. Is that 3? Not there. No, that works fine. We just need this to be minus 3M, I believe. We'll need to adjust that. Why is that happening? Right, there we go. That should give us the right width. Yeah, cool. Let's make this just a little bit larger. Okay, and now we just need to adjust z-indexes here. Just pop it right behind the image there. Oh, that did nothing. All right. Cool, we're going to have to think of a different way to do this, I suppose. We just need that. I think we just need to move that margin bottom up like that. Or maybe just have no margin bottom. All right. So the other thing we can do here is give it a background there. There we go. That fixes that overflow. Give it a background gradient. So let's head over here and find CSS Gradient. Love this website. We need to get that very dark, and then that's going to go to white. So we'll start white, that to FFF. And we actually need to flip that around. Say we need that to be vertical 360. Cool, and that is exactly vertical. And we're going to say we'll say 70%. Putting those at the same color gives it the same, or at the same stop value, gives it the that effect. So I think I actually am going to have to flip that 30-30. There we go. Cool. Let me pull this. Background. Oop. Gradient. Maybe linear gradient. Cool. Now we just go all the way back down here to background gradient. a look at how that looks. Beautiful. That's like almost precisely what we need. Loving that. We need a little bit more padding on the bottom. Or, no, we need to create this section. Okay, cool. All right. Alrighty. Start with that big header. That's going to be our core values. And then we'll get this columns going. We've got 3 columns. So we'll do is 3. Cool. And then we need to pop those out into these little tiles. All right, focus on people. So we're just going to add another class here. Or actually what we'll do is we'll pop these and we'll do this multi-type thing. Cool. Alright, well I don't know why it's behaving that way. Alright, well, you know what? That kind of sucks. Just to make our markup a little nicer, so we'll do h1, do span, focus on people, do our system and culture enable ideas, enable ideas, and thinking to be flourished. We also empower our team to help each other. All right, cool. We're pretty good there. O2 growth mindset. And O3 anti-status quo. All right. So this is going to have that same background. So we'll throw, first off, let's do that. Background white. Alright, so this is going to be a utility class that we'll start using. Cool. Look at that. Alright, so that's looking nice. Alright, so one thing that we're seeing here is this 3-column setup looks to be falling a little short. We're not going all the way there. So a couple of things that we can change about that. The first thing is going to be in the columns thing here. We can just say justify content space around. That'll make that do almost the right thing. Space between, I should say. And that'll make everything flex out, take up as much room as it's needed. But when we go up here, we see that kind of goofs all of this up unless we give this a class of 6 to fill out the rest of that space. So that works, but that makes that line of text go all the way across. And I'm actually okay with that. Gotta find that subtitle class. So that subtitle, we're gonna say width of 60% on that. And then that'll make that look real nice. There we go. Cool. Everything's playing nice now. So we just got to style up these guys here, these things. We want a darker color on that. Let's go all the way back here. Very dark. Very dark. Cool. And then we need to give this a little bit larger of a font size. You need to give this larger font size, and the font size on the color on those p tags is going to be that gray color, which I think we can establish just with some opacity. We're also going to want to give a little bit of a margin here. All right. So our markup there is going to be that H1. There we go. H1, the span, and the P. As long as we stick to that markup, we don't need to use classes really. Though it may be good to use some different colors or some different classes on those elements in case we want to change the font sizes or what have you later on down the road. But for now, this is going to be all right. H1, we're going to give that font size of 2.5M. I think that's going to be way too large. That's fine. Again, we got to lighten up that font weight. That span is going to have a font size of 2M. And that P is just going to have opacity at 70% maybe. Lighten it up a little bit. There, I'm pretty good with that. Let's get that font size back to normal on those H1s in there though. Oops. Cool. Yeah, I'm pretty okay with that. Plenty of margin. Would have liked to have gotten a lighter font weight, but that 400 is going to have to do. Cool, so there we go. This whole page is now all coded up. And we're looking pretty nice. That container, though, it's got a min width of 100 VH, which I am finding to be excessive. So let's go back here. And then that container on the blog, that one we were trying to target, is going to be this container right here. So we're going to give it an ID of blog. Go back here and say blog in height 100 VH. And then that's going to crop that essentially to the correct size. I think that's fine. And then we go over to our blog. Everything will maintain sizing. There we go. Cool. We're looking pretty good here. We just need to go ahead and get everything collapsed here because this is now kind of looking like garbage. I'm not going to lie. So to do that, we will look at our columns and throw a max width mobile breakpoint and say flex direction of column, and then also on the column, I am just doing that markup wrong. It's a media query, not a max width query. Width is going to be 100% on all of that. Cool. And that's going to break that down real nicely. But it's going to make it readable, but it's not pretty there. So we need to make that pretty. So let's find our about. And where did how did I define that stuff? So we're back up here. Let's look at those columns too. Those columns look fine, but we need those to be all the way across because those P's are not. I'll do that. Work. Yeah, columns. The column is 3 though. Does not. All right. So let's give it another refresh here. With 30%. Okay, so that degree of specificity is not sufficient. All right. So we're just going to go like this. And that does it. There we go. We're looking a lot better there. Looking pretty good over here. We still have a couple of things that are not taking up the full width of their container. Additionally, we need a little bit more margin right here. We can see that these things are bumping into each other real hard there. So let's find, first off, let's find this stuff. This, yeah, we definitely just need some more margin on those. Over here, columns. Alrighty. Margin, we'll say margin of 1M auto, just to kind of give some space. Break that up a little bit. Okay. And then this here and this here both need to be 100% of the width. So we need to find where that is defined. Section subtitle. Alrighty. Section title, section subtitle, media, max width, mobile breakpoint, width 100%. Makes that real good. And it keeps the content from running on too long. There we go. I think we're looking pretty good here. I'm pretty happy with that. I did want to get into a few more things with this today, but building this page, man, that took quite a long time. So the next time we come together, I'm going to be building this page, and that will allow me the opportunity to take more time to talk about this section here and all of the ways that we can make that work. So just to kind of wrap up what we looked at today, we talked about creating the JavaScript. Well, first off, we talked about compartmentalizing our files so that we're not repeating too much code. First thing we did to do that is we moved our JavaScript from being inlined in the index.html file. We moved that to an external JavaScript file, and then we called it in to the index.html file. So that helped us have one place from which we would edit our JavaScript. The next thing we did is we served everything as a PHP file, and we called in the header.php file and the footer.php file. And then from each of those files, it just gave us one place to edit the common elements between each page that we serve, and then from each page that we serve, we call in those elements. So with that, I suppose on that same thread, we could talk about moving static assets into different folders. So that will be a topic for next week, and I'm just going to write that down in my notebook here. I've got a notebook with a whole thing of notes. Even if you're working in a digital medium, I find that having a physical piece of paper on which to write down your ideas, to write down your notes, is a really good idea. I have half a notebook here full of many notes regarding layouts and designs and very specific things such as colors that I like or images that I like, stuff like that. I also write down notes for how I want these streams to go, what I need to talk about, just so that I'm not forgetting, so I'm not holding it all in my head. So I'm going to talk about file structuring, static assets in folders, rather than just having everything kind of willy-nilly all the way around in the root folder. I am going to talk about refactoring CSS to act as a system. And then I am going to talk about building the other page that's right here. So I think that's just going to be a landing page, so I'm going to refer to it as such. Build landing page. Okay. And then, like I said, we're not going to do a whole lot of interactivity when we initially build this page. We're going to add in the slider functionality at a later date because that's going to be a whole stream in and of itself. And then this grid is going to be really fun to do. And then the partners area, that's going to be quite interesting to figure out. Yeah. So those are going to be the three huge topics next time. We're going to start off by talking about file structuring, and then we'll go into refactoring CSS to act as a system rather than piecemeal stuff, and then we'll talk about building a landing page. This landing page, to be specific. It's going to be really interesting. So thank you again for joining me in my cat today. As always, once the stream is over, I'm going to update the site, which you're going to find here at Nate Northway. Can't even spell my own name right. .com/locaventures/ right now it's at index.html, but it will not be at that soon because we're going to have the about and the blog page uploaded there today. So yeah, if you just go to /localventures, I think you might be shown the file tree. Let's see. Oh, no, you get a 404, which is fine. So, the other thing I want to talk about is removing file extensions. And that's going to be done with HTAccess. Cool. So until then, you can find me online at natenorthway.com. All my relevant social links are there. I'll put up a blog post today talking about this stream, talking about Local Ventures and what I plan to do in the future. And then I will also be uploading this video to YouTube. I think you can view it on stream view it on Twitch as well. Yeah, follow me on Twitter. Send me a request on LinkedIn. Follow me on CodePen, Twitch, YouTube, GitHub. Email me if you want. Drop a comment, like, subscribe, hit that notification button. Thanks for hanging out. See you next time.